Alrighty, hello everyone. Today we're going to be making this pretty cherry blossom Sakura flower coaster. It is super cute for the spring, any holidays. I love keeping it just in my room. But today, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to need pink yarn and white yarn. I'm using acrylic weight or size 4 medium yarn in both pink and white. And I use a 4.5, you might not be able to see it, but I use a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. And that's pretty much it. It's going to be 5 rows. And this is not my pattern. I used another YouTuber's videos, and I will go ahead and link it in the description below. I will also link a Google Docs with a written version of this pattern, but let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so for row 1, you're going to go ahead and start off with a magic circle. And then you're going to go ahead and chain 4. And we're going to be doing a double crochet into our magic ring. So yarn over, go into the ring. And then finish off your double crochet, and you should notice that it creates this little pocket. And then we're going to go ahead and chain 1. Alrighty, and then we're just going to keep repeating that pattern of double crochet, chain 1, and we're going to do that a few more times. Double crochet into the magic ring, yarn 1, and you're going to do that 2 more times. Alrighty, so when you are done with that double crochet and chain 1, you're going to have these little pockets on your magic ring. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets, and when we slip stitch to close off this row, you're going to have a total of 5 pockets. So let's go ahead and pull our string to close up the magic ring. There we go. And you're basically going to slip stitch into this first little pocket right here to finish off row 1. Alrighty, and then there we go. So it's gonna look a little funky right now, but once we start working into it, it'll start looking a little more prominent. But you should be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pockets, and you're ready to move on to round 2. Alrighty, so for round 2, you're going to go ahead and chain 4, 2, 3, 4, and we are going to do a 3 double crochet cluster into this first pocket. So I'm going to walk through what that means. So I'm going to start off by doing a regular double crochet into that pocket, and you're going to yarn over and pull through those first 2. And typically you yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops to finish off your double crochet, but instead of continuing that, you're going to yarn over again and start another double crochet, which is our second one. Only pull through those first 2, and then we're going to do that one more time, yarn over into the pocket and only pulling those first 2. So if you follow that method of just kind of only starting the first 2 of each of the double crochets, you should end up with 4 loops on your crochet hook. And then to finish this off, you're yarning over and pulling through all those 4 loops like that to create a little cluster. And you're going to go ahead and chain 1, and you're going to repeat that process of the 3 double crochet cluster and chain 1 9 times. So we did that in the first pocket. The next time you do it is going to be kind of where that little branch is. It should be just like in a normal stitch. That's where we're going to work in next. So let's go ahead and do that together. Yarn over, only pull through those first 2, start over the second, only pulling through those first 2, and then yarn over to do our third one. Oops, there we go. And again, double check to make sure that you have 4 on your hook. Yarning over, pulling all the way through. And then we finish off by doing our chain 1. So again, you're going to do that all the way around, and it should be a total of 9 times. You're going to be alternating between doing it inside the pocket, inside that little pocket, and then doing it where that branch is, that little stitch where the branch connects to the magic ring, then a pocket, then a branch, then a pocket, and then so on and so forth. So you're going to continue that for a total of 9 times, well, now 7 since you did your first 2, and I will meet you at the end of round 2. Alrighty, so your row 2 should start looking like this, starting to create a circle, and you'll notice that your center starfish that you created in row 1 is starting to become a little bit more prominent, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and do the last 3 double crochet cluster together, and you should do your last one in a pocket instead of a branch. So yarn over, pulling through, yarn over, third double crochet, make sure we have 4, pulling all the way through, and then don't forget to do your chain 1. Alrighty, and then we finished our 3 double crochet clusters. Before we end off this round, we're going to do a 2 double crochet cluster and then a slip stitch when we change into our secondary color. So this next double crochet cluster is going to go into the first stitch of our row. So it's going to be right here. Instead of this pocket, it's going to be into that little stitch where we crocheted 4. It's going to be that very first one. So hopefully you can see that. Again, it's not going to be that pocket, it's going to be that stitch. And so we're going to do a 2 double crochet cluster. So yarn over, go into that stitch, pull through, yarn over into that stitch, and instead of 4 loops we should have 3. So here's our 3 loops, and instead of pulling all the way through, we're going to get our pink yarn. So go ahead and grab your pink yarn. Okay, so here I have my pink yarn. I know it probably looks exactly the same because it's super pale, but I promise whenever I start crocheting around, you'll be able to see a little bit of the difference. But now we're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch with this yarn. So kind of loop it around your finger, and then we're going to basically pull it through from this pocket right here. So go ahead and enter your hook, grab the pink yarn, pull through like that. Perfect. So it might be a little loose, but as soon as we start working with the third row, you'll notice that it'll tighten up a little more. So let's go ahead and jump right into our row 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into round 3, and we're going to be using our pink yarn. You're going to go ahead and start by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we are going to make sure that when we're working our way around that we are keeping this pink tail end of the yarn all the way around so that we can kind of weave it in as we do our work. And let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and do a regular double crochet into this area that we kind of have a little pocket in. And then this is just a regular double crochet. And this is going to be an increase, so that means it's going to be 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So I'm going to do 2 double crochets. There we go. And then the next stitch, which is going to be the beginning of the cluster, is just going to be 1 double crochet. And again, these are just regular double crochets. And so you're just going to continue that pattern of doing an increase in the next stitch and then regular 1 double crochet. So technically it's going to be like 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. So I did want to note that technically this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So you can kind of see how it branches out like that. Then we go into our increase, then our next double crochet. So I did want to make a note of that. Alrighty, so I did want to jump in here and note that you should be working your tail end of the pink yarn around into your work. And then once you've worked it in a little bit, you can go ahead and pull the tail. And that's going to basically close off this little section to make it a little tighter so it's not as big of a pocket essentially. So try to do that before you work in the tail yarn. If you don't feel comfortable working in the tail yarn, no worries. You can still pull it when you do your double crochets and then cut it if you feel like it. But I like to work it in essentially just by kind of keeping it behind whatever stitch I'm going in and pulling it through. And that's pretty much it. Alrighty, so we're almost done with our row 3 and you should be getting this beautiful pink rim all the way around. And I'm going to go ahead and do the last double crochet with you. It should be a single double crochet. So yarn over, pull through. And to finish off, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into this little, I guess you can say pocket since I've been calling them pockets. This little pocket basically where we created our chain 3. You're going to slip stitch it into there. Pull through. Alrighty. And you should have a total of 30 stitches all the way around. I basically start off by counting that first stitch in our increased double crochet. So I start off with 1 and then go all the way around, making sure that our slip stitch is number 30. So go ahead and double check that because that'll be important. And you're ready to go ahead and move on to row 4. Alrighty, so moving on to row 4, you're going to notice that the pattern that I have listed is going to have different color coding. So that just signifies what you're doing into each stitch. So into this first stitch, we're just going to do a slip stitch. Then the next color coding says to move on to the next, which means we're doing a single crochet and half double crochet into our second one. Moving on to the next stitch is the double crochet and triple. The next stitch is a triple then double. then half double and single, and then slip stitch. So that's kind of what the pattern means, and you're just going to repeat that 5 times, but I'm going to go ahead and do the first one with you just so that you can see. So starting off, we're just going to do a regular slip stitch, nothing crazy. And if you want, you can go ahead and put a stitch marker into that stitch just so that you know the start of row 4, but I'll go ahead and add it later. And the next stitch we're moving on to is the single crochet. So move on, make sure you're moving on to that next stitch, doing a single crochet, and into that same stitch we're doing a half double. Oop, pull through. And moving on to the next stitch, we're going to do a regular double crochet. And into that same stitch, we're doing a triple. So basically you're just yarning over twice. And then going into that same stitch, pull through the first two, pull through the second two, and then pull through the last two. So triple crochets, or however you want to word it, sentences feel a little funny, so if you're not used to them, no worries. And then into the next stitch we're doing another triple. Again, this is our next stitch, and into that same stitch we're going to be doing a regular double crochet. Moving on to the next stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet. Oops. My half doubles just never want to pull through. And then a single into that same stitch. And then we're going to finish off with a slip stitch into the next stitch. Boom. There we go. So now you have this little point, and when you do that 5 times, essentially it's going to create a little star, a rounded star. So go ahead and repeat that process. Make sure that you're starting off with that slip stitch and ending with a slip stitch. So technically it's going to be 2 slip stitches back to back. So after this slip stitch, which ended the first part, moving on to the second part, we're doing another slip stitch. So just keep that in mind. Moving forward, there's my slip stitch, and you're just going to keep going all the way around, and I will go ahead and meet you at the end. Alrighty, here we go. So at the end of your row, you should have this star, rounded star kind of coaster so far. I went ahead and added a stitch marker just to kind of help me out. But for our next row, our last row, you're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch into the next stitch. I already went ahead and did that just because I was having trouble getting into that stitch. But I do have a tip if for whatever reason, because we have a couple of slip stitch coming up, if you have trouble trying to fit your 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, I try to put a smaller crochet hook and just kind of widen it a bit so it can prepare for a larger hook. So that's what I did. So I spent time doing that. But after you do your slip stitch for row 5, you're going to go ahead and do 3 double crochets into the following 3 stitches. So let's go ahead and do our first double crochet. And this is just a regular double crochet. There we go. And then in the next stitch, you're doing another double crochet. There we go. And then you're doing one more double crochet, and just a reminder, these are in the next following 3 stitches. So the color coding might be a little confusing, but essentially you're just going to do a double crochet, double crochet, double crochet all in the next 3 stitches. Then you're going to go ahead and do a half double crochet, and you should be kind of at the point or the one of the 2 points at our previous row. So let's go ahead and do a half double crochet. And then we're going to go ahead and chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going to do a slip stitch into that same spot where you did a half double crochet. So just go in, pull through, and it kind of creates this little point right there. And you're going to do another slip stitch into the next stitch. So going into the next one, we're just creating a slip stitch, chain 2, and do a half double crochet into that same stitch. Perfect. Now you should have 2 little points right here to kind of showcase the petal. And to finish off that first petal, we're going to go ahead and do our 3 double crochets again into the next following 3 stitches. So and to finish off that petal, you're going to do a slip stitch. Into its own stitch. Alrighty, so you've made your first petal. It should have these 2 little points right there, and you're just going to repeat the same process all the way around and come to the end. So I will meet you at the very end. And now you have this beautiful Sakura flower. It is so cute for the spring, for Mother's Day. And I know it's quite challenging in the beginning, but once you go through it the first time, it gets a lot easier. Thank you for watching, and if you have any tips for any others during your first experience, go ahead and add them below so that we can help each other out in creating these beautiful projects. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be coming out with more YouTube videos on different crochet projects.